Okay, welcome to our virtual judges orientation for the Maine State Science Fair. I'm so happy to see that everybody made it today, and I'm really happy for the technology that allows us to record this so that other people can view it later. My name is Stephanie Burrell, and I work for the Maine Mathematics and Science Alliance, and I'm here with Mike McKernan. He's helping out in the background, which is a vital role. And we're going to be delivering your orientation today. There we go. So first thing, I'd just like to thank all of you for volunteering to judge at the science fair. We expect over 200 students this year, and we really couldn't run the event without the great variety and number of judges that we have signed up. So we want to thank you. And I'd like to, this is a little bit of an experiment, but I'd like to just, of the people who are here on the webinar, like to see, run a little poll. So you should see something come up on your screen asking if you've judged at the science fair before. Go ahead and answer that, and I guess you hit, or I don't get to answer. So it looks like more than half of you have judged at the Maine State Science Fair. A small number have judged at another science fair, and about a third have not done it before. Great, that's really interesting. So I'd like to start out with our motto. I love this motto because it really represents the spectrum of students you're going to encounter. For some students, this is the first time they've ever done independent research or an independent engineering project. So the judge's job is to, kind of get them to think a little bit about what they could, how they could continue their research, and also just to inspire them to continue their research and want to come back to the science fair and want to continue studying STEM. The other thing is that a lot of them are learning a lot of hard lessons about project management, time management, and so participating in the science fair for them is it's a big growth experience. But you'll also encounter some students who have done like really awesome work, and it's our job to find those students so that we can send them on to represent Maine at the International Science and Engineering Fair. So that's I think this motto really encompasses the science fair and all of the different students that you'll see here. So today the webinar is going to cover just getting there to the event, and I think you'll find it's easier to find your way around than it was the last couple of years when it was up at the Cross Insurance Center, so that's good. We'll go over the schedule for the day and what you can expect from the event, and we'll cover the protocol for that we'll use to evaluate the projects. We'll look over the abstracts that we'll use for science and engineering projects. We'll look over the abstracts for the students' projects, and then the rubrics you'll use to score those the projects. And then there'll be time throughout for questions and answers. So the science fair is located at Colby College this year. And if you've ever been there, you probably took exit 127 off of I-95, and that usually brings you into campus with the pond on your right, and as you go by the pond, the road loops around and the gym is on your left. Mike, do you know if we're going to be able to use that parking lot that's just to the south of the gym that's connected there?
Yep, there are parking areas right adjacent to the gym, so either of those will be available during the fair.
Yeah, there's also one that's kind of right in front of the Alfond rink as well. So really convenient parking, and
Stephanie.
Yes.
We'll have actually a nice large flapping flag banner right outside the entrance to the gymnasium, so you should not be able to miss it.
That's great. And when you get into the gym, you'll go in the front door and you'll see registration right there. So you'll check in, and then the judges' room is upstairs, and it will be very easy to find. We'll have people to point you there, and we'll also have signs. So I think you'll find it pretty easy to get around. Oops. So the schedule for the science fair, we'd like you to arrive between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. We'll have some coffee and refreshments, fruit and baked goods when you get there. We'll go over some housekeeping and answer your questions in a short meeting around 8 o'clock. And then you'll have some time to meet with the other judges in your category to make a plan for the day. And that might include whether you'll work in pairs or individually. It also would include how much time you want to budget for each project based on how many projects are in your category. And then from 9 to 11:45, there will be the judging. So you'll have an hour and 15 minutes, and then there'll be a 15-minute break, and then another hour and 15 minutes. And then at noontime, we'll have lunch served right there in your judging room, and you can, you're welcome to work over lunch. You can talk about the projects. You can figure out, how you would rank them amongst your category. And most of the judges, I think, will be done probably between like 1:30 and 2 o'clock. But you're welcome to stay at the to see the awards ceremony that will happen at 3. The students' projects will actually be on display until about 2:45. So if you feel the need to, run down to the gym and see see a project's display board again or something, that's certainly going to be a possibility. The students will be out at different workshops around campus. And so if you get done with judging, you want to stick around for the award ceremony, you could go pop your head into one of those workshops. There are going to be some really neat things that they're doing. So that's the schedule for the day. Anybody have any questions yet? You can unmute and let me know if you do. I think I mentioned we'll have lunch for you, and we've got, all of your dietary restrictions from your registration. So we'll keep all of that in mind. And Colby's got great dining services, so I don't think we'll have any problems with that. All right, so here's how the judging protocol is going to be structured. Mike, did you see that chat comment? I'm not sure. Oh, whoops, there we go. Okay. Half of the projects are going to be judged in round 1, and the other half will be judged in round 2. So I'll arrange it so that about, you've got kind of an even number of projects in your category to look at in each of those times. And the way we set it up is the projects will go from 1 to 175 or however many projects we have numerically through the categories. So all of your projects in your category will be together in the same section of tables, and the even numbered projects will get judged in round 2, and the odd numbered will get judged in round 1, so that there will be some space there. Every other project is going to be judged in the first round, so that there'll be a little bit more room. And then in the second round, the other students will come through, and you'll be able to interview them as well. So this is basically the same as how we did it last year for those of you who have been before. And so most of you are going to get to see every project or talk to the students for every project in your category, but there are a few exceptions. We have about 30 behavioral and social science projects. We actually had to break it up into 2 categories, and the earth and environmental sciences as well. So some of these categories are bigger, and you'll be assigned to be the primary reviewer for a certain number of projects in those bigger categories. And if you get through all of your primary projects to review and you have time to go and peek at some of the ones that weren't assigned to you, that's fine. But just keep in mind that each project will be judged by at least 3 judges. So if you don't see a project, you can know that 3 people did, and talk about that over lunch if you didn't have time to get to that project. So these are just a few of my recommendations to you. Plan to spend around 5 to 10 minutes with each student or team, and Your group of judges in the morning will figure out. You might have 10 projects split over this big span of time, so you could probably budget a little bit more than that. But if you have a larger number of projects, like 18 total, you might have to be a little bit more careful with the amount of time you spend with each project. If you spend too much time in the beginning with your first projects, the ones at the end of the judging round are going to get kind of cut short. So it's perfectly acceptable, I think, to, when you approach a student, introduce yourself and say, just so you know, I've got about 7 minutes to spend with you, and that might just help give them an idea of how much they can talk about their project. When we'll send the abstracts to you hopefully at least the Monday before the fair, so you'll have a good 5 days to look them over. They're actually due today, so we're going to be working next week on getting them all sorted out and ready to send to you, and they'll be in a Google Drive. So as you read over the abstracts, it's probably a good idea to have a couple of questions that came up. One of them, some of the students might not actually have all of their results yet, so it might be a question about, well, I understand what your project is about, but what did you discover? So just a few questions, maybe clarifying questions for the students, and that, just to have something to approach the project with is helpful, because some students will launch right into an elevator speech and they'll have no problem talking about their project, but others might need a little bit of prodding, and you might need to help them along a little bit with some questions. After each interview, you want to spend a couple minutes just sort of marking up the rubric, rating the project. And I'd recommend that you limit your time writing on the rubric during the interview, because I think it makes the students nervous to see yourself all of a sudden look down and start scribbling hurriedly on your rubric. So if you need to make a few notes, that's fine, but during the interview, we've told the students that it's sort of a conversation back and forth. So if you can spend limited time writing down during the interview, that would be great. So as I mentioned before, there's a short break between the judging rounds to run to the bathroom or grab a cup of coffee, something like that. It's about 15 minutes. And we will provide time after the second judging round so that you can discuss the projects. You'll have plenty of time, I think, to figure that out. Your biggest responsibility is to choose the top 3 projects in your category, because we award 3 projects in each category, and then from the top projects, we then pick the 3 that will go on to represent us at the International Science and Engineering Fair. So that's your first goal, is to get the three projects that seem to be the strongest for your category. And then there are going to be a bunch of special awards, and some categories have more than others, but I will organize all of that so that you know which projects are qualified for special awards, and then you can kind of recommend projects that you think would be good for the special awards. Some of the special awards, I think, are really a good opportunity to kind of give an honorable mention. So maybe a student, they were like your 4th best project, and you think they still deserve recognition, but we can't just give, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place for each category. So the special awards are often good for that. And I believe, if you've been to the science fair before, I don't think much has changed about the special awards. Pretty much the same stuff. And there is going to be a group of judges that are focusing solely on special awards, but they're really going to need the rest of the judges' input on the strong projects, because they're not going to be able to go around and talk to every single student. So just keep that in mind. And we're really excited this year that we have some scholarships being offered. The College of the Atlantic is offering 2 scholarships. They're $25,000 a year, renewable for 4 years. So that's a pretty big scholarship. The University of Maine is offering up to 12 full tuition scholarships. And the University of Southern Maine is offering up to 12 $4,000 per year scholarships. So renewable scholarships. And we're really excited about that. And each of those schools will be sending judges to deal with the scholarships and the selection of that. So you don't have to worry about spending other people's money, which is what would be my concern. But it is going to be helpful for you to look out for those top projects. We're going to be polling the students to see which of them are interested in any of these colleges. And I believe it's just going to be juniors and seniors who haven't committed to a school who will be considered for those. So the category judges can be a big help to those scholarship judges and helping them sort out which are the strongest projects. Anybody have any questions yet? I saw a couple of chats come through, Mike, so I wasn't sure if there was anything that we should address.
Yes. One individual asked, you mentioned that the behavioral and social sciences category would be split in half.
Mm-hmm.
And if each of those halves would have 3 awards, or if we were only awarding 3 for the entire behavioral social sciences. And the answer is that we'll be awarding 3 in each half of behavior and social sciences, because they are distinct subgroups within that larger category.
That's right. And I believe there is an American Psychological Association award. I think we can only give out one, so we'll have to kind of pick between those 2 categories which one gets it. So in that instance, sometimes with some of the special awards, if there's only one offered, we're going to have to pick between like 2 related categories. But yeah, every year we just kind of see how many projects we get for each category. Sometimes that means splitting a category into 2 similar. It also can mean combining categories. I know that one person said, oh, no, I'd like to judge mathematics. We don't have any math projects this year. So we just never know. Sometimes I remember the first year I did this, we had 4 behavioral and social science projects, and now we have 30. So it's just, year to year, it can be very different. Any other questions? Okay, great. Let's see. Oh, my earbuds are coming out. So let's see, we've got, as I mentioned, I will put the abstracts in the Google Drive, and you'll probably have about 10 to 13 projects that you're the primary reviewer for. So just keep in mind that that's 10 to 13 divided by the 2 judging rounds. So in each round, you might look at 5 to, 7 projects or something like that. So the abstracts will be available in the Google Drive, and as we get them from the students, we'll put them in there. Today is the deadline, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot. So as we get the projects, we'll put them in to the Google Drive so that you'll be able to see them, and we'll give you access. And you can certainly review all of the abstracts in your category, even if you're not necessarily assigned to them, because you might have a chance to go and check out those projects. I just don't want to overload judges and make them feel this like extreme pressure to go and see every single project if they have a big category. So like I mentioned before, you can certainly jot down questions or comments, but try not to judge a project too much based on its abstract. When we look later at the scoring rubric, you'll see that a lot of it is actually based on the interview with the student and the poster and sort of the process that they went through. And all of that information you can get from the interview at the science fair. Some of the abstracts may not have conclusions because students are still experimenting or still working on analyzing their data, and that's okay. It's just if you see sort of a to be continued or data will be available at the science fair. Just be aware that we've told the teachers that's acceptable at this point. We have a new system called Scienteer where the students are doing everything electronically for all their forms, and there's been some confusion. So we've kind of moved deadlines back a little bit and tried to be sensitive to that. Did somebody have a question? Okay, thought I heard something. Now, when you're looking at an abstract, one of the things you want to think about is, you know, how unique is this project? How did this kid come up with this idea? And I'm not going to lie, I think some students are basically doing an internet search for science fair projects. And there are a couple of websites that I actually would rather kids don't even know about until they've already figured out what they're going to do for their project, because they have these kind of like little wizards that help you come up with a science fair project. And they're really kind of, it's been done 100,000 times. So if you're looking at a project and going, oh, this seems kind of, it doesn't really seem all that unique. One of the things you can do when you're talking to the student is sort of probe them and say, so how'd you come up with the idea for this project? And you might have a student who's got this like great backstory about the curiosity, something in their daily life that got them thinking about this. But you might also have a student who just kind of did a Google search. So, that's where when we're looking at a project, the novelty of the project is one thing, but also looking at how the student came to that project. If it was sort of an organic process of them having a question and wanting to look into it versus I got to do a science fair project. So, I'm going to look online and see what I could do. So there's some difference there. If some of you may not know about Google Scholar, if you need to brush up on the topic, sort of just learn a little bit about something in the project that you're not that familiar with, it's a good place to go. And I also like how stuff works and that sort of thing. It's just feel free to do a little bit of your own research if you feel like you're kind of coming into this project not knowing anything about phytoplankton or cellulose nanofibers or something like that. So this is basically a rubric that, I keep using these words wrong, abstract. This is an abstract that includes the project's title, the name of the student or students, and the school that they came from, and then the text of their abstract, which has to be 250 words or fewer. Now, we're still kind of working out the kinks with the online system. So the upper right-hand corner where it says category, it's gray and crossed out. That might not say the right thing. If the student selected a particular category, but we moved them because we either thought that they belonged in another category, or maybe we changed the categories around a little bit. So just keep in mind that in the upper right-hand corner might not match the category that you're in, but we'll have all of them sorted into different folders in the Google Drive. So you'll know that, okay, these are all within my category. You don't have to pay attention to the bottom half. Those are some questions that these abstracts are basically what we would send right on to the International Science and Engineering Fair. So you don't really have to worry about any of that stuff. It's just the student's name, the title, and the text of the abstract. Like I said, you'll get a link to our Google Drive, and you should be able to access it even if you don't have a Google account. If you have the link, you should be able to get in there, and you can download the abstracts. You can just view them right on the screen. You don't feel like you have to print them, because we will have copies printed at the science fair. So if you're not the type of person who wants to, print a whole bunch of stuff and make handwritten notes, then don't worry about it, because we will have copies at the science fair for all of you. Any questions thus yet? Okay. Now we have two different rubrics, science and engineering, and the difference is basically just the process that the students go through. They're all weighted, the scores are all weighted the same, and you might have some science and some engineering projects in your category, and we're doing our best to figure out in advance what the process the student went through. It's not always evident though. And so we'll have extra copies of the science and the engineering rubrics so that if you're at a project and you're like, well, this kid did engineering, you can just, pull out the other rubric. Most of you, I think, will only deal with the science rubric, but some of the categories kind of cross over into engineering. We don't have an engineering category this year. There were very few projects that the students actually assigned as engineering, and they really fit nicely into other categories. Let's see. So we're going to take a look at an actual, this is the science rubric first, and the research question, design and methodology, and the execution sections. Those are different for the science projects, but the other three sections, creativity, presentation, those are the same on both rubrics. And the thing that's important to note here is that, when I was looking at the rubrics after last year's science fair, I saw that there were some people who, the highest score they gave anybody was like 50. And then there might be another person who had given somebody a 98. And that's fine as long as each judge is consistent within their own scoring and comparing the projects kind of on their own number scale. Then it really doesn't matter, because each of you will come up with, well, I thought this was the best and the second best and the third best and the fourth best. So the scores are really just to kind of help you yourself compare projects. Everybody scores differently. Some people are more generous with points and others are a little bit more difficult. It's a little more difficult to squeeze points out of them. So that's just something to think about when it comes to the scoring. And down at the bottom, what we're going to do is there's a horizontal line where it says comments for students below this line. After the science fair, we'll cut the top part off and send the comments to the teacher, like actually mail them. So you'll get labels just like we did last year that have the student's name and project number that you'll stick on the bottom right hand corner. So then after you've when you've got a little bit of free time, you've picked your top 3 projects, you might go and just write some notes to the student about, what did you like about their project? And then, what's something, a direction they could go in the future, or some way that they could improve their project. It's really helpful. The teachers and the students liked it last year. So the students won't be seeing, that they got a 78 or a 27 or a 99, because we'll cut that portion off and they'll just get to see your comments. So this is the engineering rubric. And like I said before, the first 3 sections, it's the same point distribution. It's just because of the process of their projects is a little different. It's written out differently. It will help you to think a little bit differently about how they did their project. Does anybody have any questions at this point? So, oh, yep, Mike, somebody? I thought I heard somebody about to talk. Okay. Now, one last thing I wanted to mention is that you are going to encounter some projects where the students didn't necessarily collect their own data. Instead, they looked at data that's existing out there. Now, I know that there are, we had a teacher from Presque Isle last year who said, my husband is an entomologist and they have all of this insect data that they haven't done anything with. Could our students use that? And that's perfectly acceptable. So you see a lot of times with the students might do a project with genomics, or they might be looking at de-identified healthcare data to try to make some correlations between different things. So you'll see that students are either doing data mining, or they might be doing predictive analytics, for an example could be predicting something to do with the climate, how things change, how ticks spread across a region, something like that, based on data that already exists. and that's perfectly acceptable too. That we do have some projects in the computer science and also in the biological sciences and engineering and the biomedical and health science categories that involve this kind of big data or data mining. Are there any final questions? Or is there anything you feel like you need that you either don't have or I haven't told you you will get?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I cannot see you. Let me see if I can pull you up here.
Oh, no, it's not a pretty sight. You don't want to do that.
Okay. I can see I'm talking to James, right?
Yeah, that'd be good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to do it here, but I guess I could contact you separately maybe with a little more insight where I'm on the, excuse me, on the special awards
Yep.
portion. And I have not done that before. Glad to do it. I'd like to know what I'm supposed to do and how that works. And we don't need to go
Absolutely.
here, but I would like to be good at it. And to do that, I need to know a little more about it.
Well, and that's actually there. I'm sure there are some other people on the show, on the webinar that are also wondering the same thing. What I do when I get each special award, each one comes with sort of a letter from the organization that's awarding it. And it might say that this is for any student in grade 9 through 12 who had a, psychology project. Or it might say this is for females who did a geoscience project. Or it might say this is only for individual students, because some of the projects are done by students and teens. So what I do is I take all of that criteria and I compare it to the students that we have. So some of the awards are only for certain categories or certain subject areas, and I will have a document that shows, okay, for this particular award, these are the projects that qualify. And then the people in the categories are also going to have a list of, within your category, these projects are qualified for these different special awards. And so they're going to be able to help you a little bit by saying, well, I thought this project was really innovative. So, I'm going to recommend that they give the award to them. And you might have a couple different categories that are telling you, oh, we think you should award this project or that project, and so you'll have a much smaller field of projects to look at, to give those awards to. And one of the things, because a lot of these special awards, like very few of them come with any monetary prize. Some of them have little medallions to go around their necks, and they all get certificates. So one of the things that I think the special awards gives us a really great opportunity to do is to kind of share the wealth. And if you've got those, maybe 4th or 5th place projects in your category, that's a great way to use a special award, in my opinion. Some of them do say the top behavioral and social science project. And that's, so some of them are going to be kind of cut and dry. It's like, that's what we have to do. But and we'll certainly, Mike and I will be there to help out. And we do have a sort of an overall lead judge who is going to be really great in helping, especially in the lunchtime and afterwards, to help people kind of sort things out. Does that help a little bit?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
You're
Stephanie?
welcome. Yes, Mike.
So is it also correct that each category will have a lead judge?
Yes, that's right. And so just to talk a little bit about the categories that were assigned. I have this insane spreadsheet. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it. Maybe just throwing darts at a board. But all of the judges have said, oh, I would do this category, that category. So I'm like trying to match people up to the categories that they said they were qualified to judge, but also trying to make sure that in each category there's at least one person who's done science fair before, who's judged here before, and oftentimes that person will be the kind of team leader. And that person,
what is their job?
So I think I mentioned before that for each category there will be a sheet where they mark out their first place, second place, third place, and then their recommendations for any of the special awards. And so that person's job is really just to kind of, get everybody to settle on the first, second, and third place prizes, and then make sure that that form gets filled out and submitted to either Mike or me or the lead judge, Larissa. So it's not necessarily, it's a little bit of a facilitation thing, but I think that you'll find it's not that challenging to come up with your top 3 projects. It might be hard figuring out which one is the top one for your category. Oh, I should mention too that there is a place on that sheet for you to mark any of the projects that you had in your category that you think could really be competitive on the international stage. So it might be your first and your second place project, but you might look at your project and say, I don't think any of these really should be going on to ISEF. And that's fine too. It really helps a lot to know whether you saw any really exemplary projects or maybe you didn't, and that's fine.
Stephanie?
Yes.
We have a question from Ken, but because he was having audio problems earlier, I think he's probably going to type it out. So we'll just give him a chance to type it out.
Sure. While he's typing, I'll just mention that I also have a few resources kind of just grabbed from the internet that Mike and I thought were good, that just give you some tips on talking to students and some different judging tips. I think there's a handbook from another science fair. Those will be on the Google Drive too. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
You just mentioned earlier the lead judge, Larissa Williams. She's a professor at Bates College. She's a biologist and has judged science fair before, and she'll be taking the place of Rob Burgess, who had done it. He's Jack's faculty. He had done it for several years. But Rob is going to be traveling this year, so Larissa will be taking that role.
Yeah, I think she'll do a great job.
So the question came in, how should a judge evaluate a project that had clear help from a parent, a teacher, or some other person? I don't have the rubric right in front of me. It's a great question. You definitely have to determine the student's level of independence, their own creativity in designing the project, their own creativity in troubleshooting the project. I think every project has some level of participation by, actually many of the projects are required to have a direct supervision by either a qualified scientist or by a teacher. Those projects that are required to have supervision might be those that have a hazardous activity that's involved or possibly a human subject. So you should definitely expect that an adult has had a role in the project in some way, but I suppose you would use, the creativity piece and, execution part of the rubric to score appropriately, to downscore appropriately those projects that you feel, or upscore, that you feel have been more independent or less independent. And of course, we're looking to reward students who have been more independent.
And I think you can sort of get a feel for how intimately acquainted the student is with the project while you're talking to them. So that's something you're looking for. Do they really know what they're talking about, or were they just doing some procedure that some grown-up showed them? We want to make sure that we don't have students that are just kind of lab assistants, that if they are working in a lab with, maybe at the university or at a hospital or something, that they're taking their own, they kind of get their own direction, sort of something tangential that makes their research different from what's just being done by their mentor. So that can be challenging, but I think it does come out. It comes out in the interview when you start to talk to the student about, well, what did you do and how did you use that device, and what does it do exactly? Those kinds of questions can really help. And I actually think that there are some students who are probably going to overplay adult help we had one student who said that, you know, he and his science teacher were working on a project. Well, that wasn't really true. I mean, she was kind of talking him through things and helping him settle on his topic. But so just, you know, be aware of that too. Any other questions or comments? Whoops, I gotta get back here. I just want to put the schedule back up so everybody knows if I can get there. There we go. Okay, well, I really appreciate everybody joining us today for this orientation webinar. Some great questions, and I look forward to seeing you on March 25th. If you have any more questions, you can email. I will send out this recording to everybody. I'll give you my cell phone number, which is important to have, especially on the day of the science fair, because I won't be looking at my email. And if you have to back out, just, you know, let me know as soon as you can so that we can make arrangements. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steph.
You're welcome. Thanks for helping out, Mike.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.